Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter right now. That game is called Valhalla, and it's from Go On Board Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page, because there is a lot of information for this game, especially about all the expansions, many expansions I could not cover over the scope of this video. So you need to go to that Kickstarter page and find out more information if you're interested at all. So you should go to the Kickstarter page by following the link in the top corner of your screen and down in the description section underneath this video. Now, Valhalla is a competitive game where you and the other players are Vikings at essentially the end of the Norse world. It is Ragnarok. It's happening, or it's about to happen, and the only thing that's left at this point is glory, of course. And how do you get glory if you're a Viking? Battle. You are trying to take your clan of warriors, and which could also include ice giants as well, and fight against the other clans and try to both take their shields as trophies, meaning that you've defeated another clan in glorious battle, but also give your warriors a chance at an honorable, glorious death, and send them to Valhalla. Hence the name of the game. Doing so will earn you points, as will taking enemy shields, and holding onto yours and defending successfully will keep your shield under your control and get you points as well. And defenders could also go to Valhalla too, your defending warriors. Now, of course, it's a bit more complicated than that. So what I'm going to do is show you how to play the game with a prototype copy of the game. So it is pretty close to final. In fact, it may be very close to final, but you just have to bear in mind that some things may change in the final retail version, and that is, of course, why you need to go to the Kickstarter page to find out more information about how that's all going to work out. But then, in any event, we are going to come back and discuss it further. Valhalla is a competitive game for 2 to 6 players. It's the Norse end of the world, and you and the other players are the last of the Viking Jarls, leading your forces against each other to become the last king of the Vikings. In game terms, you need to earn glory points, which you'll do by defeating your opponents and claiming their shields as trophies, protecting your own shields, and sending your warriors to Valhalla by leading them successfully to victory. Set up the game by first shuffling the large deck of warrior and tactics cards. Depending on the number of players, you'll discard a certain number of cards right away before you start the game. We'll get back to this in a moment. Nearby, set a point reminder card, which reminds you how endgame scoring will work for your number of players. Every player gets their own player board and a set of 4 shield tokens that they line up at the top slots. There are 4 card slots for warrior cards on the board and 2 side openings. One of those openings is for warriors who are sent to Valhalla after a successful battle. The other opening is for your Jarl card. All players will be dealt 3 Jarl cards at random from those available, though you can limit those to just the Jarls that are suggested for beginners, and some Jarls are only usable when playing with 3 or more players. Choose one of the Jarls, discard the other 2 out of the game, and place it in its slot face up. Then, everyone will read their ability out loud. Every Jarl has one special ability that is always active, and a second ability that is conditional depending on the circumstances of the game, such as during a battle or when rolling dice, etc. An icon on the card will indicate whether the 2 abilities are either or, meaning you can only use one in a given circumstance, or if you must use both abilities in a given circumstance. Choose someone at random to be the start player and give them the start player token. Now, keep drawing cards from the top of the deck until you have a number of warrior cards equal to the number of players plus 1 and leave them face up in a row on the table. Shuffle every non-warrior card that you drew back into the deck. Starting with the player to the right of the start player and moving clockwise, everyone will choose one of the warriors and slot it onto their board. The last player to choose, who is the start player, will choose one of the last 2 and shuffle the other warrior that's not chosen back into the deck. Finally, for card setup, everyone draws 7 cards from the deck, keeps 5 in their hand, and simultaneously and openly discards the other 2 into the discard pile. The final bit of setup is simply making a stock of the 6-sided battle dice within reach of all players. One set is for the attacker in a conflict, the other set is for the defender. There are also 3 additional gray dice that are only added to a dice pool under special circumstances, but these are purposely limited. When they're used up, you don't get any more, which means that one of the 2 players in a battle may not get them at all. Dice have 5 faces with particular weapons: sword, spear, bow, axe, and shield, and 1 miss side. Let's take a step back and look at the cards in the deck. Warrior cards are split between Vikings that come in 4 different clan colors and Ice Giants. Every warrior has a strength rating in the top left corner of the card along with their clan color, and below that they may have a special ability like getting extra strength against certain clans or when your battle party has a certain mix of clans. Along the side of the card are the dice faces necessary to activate the warrior, and in the bottom left corner is the glory point value of the warrior if they are successfully sent to Valhalla. Ice Giants basically function the same as Vikings as warriors, but they don't have a clan color. Their ability is unique and will shut down a defender's die when used, and they're more difficult to activate, requiring 2 or 3 of either the same dice face or different faces, but not misses. The rest of the cards in the deck are tactics cards, which are one-time use effects that can alter the tide of the battle. You can do things like give your warriors a strength boost, re-roll certain dice, or deactivate the ability of your opponent's Jarl. Going back to the chosen start player, begin the game. Each player's turn is broken down into 2 main parts. First, performing one action, which has a lot of different steps involved, and then drawing 2 cards and keeping 1. You have 4 options for your one action. First, you can simply add a warrior from hand to your battle party. You only have 4 slots for your party, and if you're already full, you'll need to discard 1 before placing a new one. The second option, however, is to add 2 warriors to the battle party at the same time, but you can only do this if the total of the required weapons on those cards is 2 or 3. You must take one of these warrior adding actions if you have no warriors on your board, and if you have none in hand, you must show your opponents that you have none to prove it, then draw 2 cards and keep 1. That, by the way, is the third type of action you can take, drawing 2 and keeping 1. The fourth option for your action is attacking another player, which is the whole crux of the game. Choose another player who still has shields remaining and who has at least 1 warrior in their battle party, then grab the 6 attack dice. The defender takes the other 6 dice. Before the battle starts, both players have a chance to use tactics cards or Jarl abilities that require being used before the start of the battle. The attacker then goes first and rolls all 6 dice. You'll use these dice by placing them on your warriors to activate them, which is called arming them. The faces of the rolled dice must match the required weapon symbols on the warrior or special combination of dice for the Ice Giants. If every symbol is covered, the warrior is armed and activated, and their strength will be added to your battle total. You're not required to arm every warrior, but if you can't arm even a single warrior, the battle automatically ends in defeat for the attacker. You may discard one of the dice you roll to re-roll some or all of the remaining dice, and you can do this multiple times until you run out of dice. You can also use battle tactics cards or Jarl abilities before or after rolling if they apply, but tactics cards can't be played after your phase ends. After the attacker is finished and has their strength total, the defender takes a turn that is exactly the same. Roll 6 dice, arm your warriors, use your cards, and if you can't arm at least 1 warrior, you automatically lose. When both sides have finished, compare strengths. Whoever has the higher amount of strength wins, with ties going to the attacker. If the attacker won, she will take a shield from the defender, and all warriors that she activated will go to Valhalla by getting placed face down in the slot on your board. They are now worth their glory points, and you can't look at them again until the end of the game. Unactivated warriors will stay on your board. If the defender won, he does not lose or gain a shield. He gets to choose which, if any, of his warriors he'd like to send to Valhalla. Some of them, all of them, or none of them. Whoever loses the battle does not get to send warriors to Valhalla. Only victory is rewarded in this regard. You always end your turn by drawing 2 cards from the deck, keeping 1 and discarding the other, just like the action that you can take in the first phase, meaning you could do this 2 times in a row if you wanted to. The next player in clockwise order will then take their turn, and so on, until one of 2 endgame conditions is met. Either one player loses their last shield, or the last card is drawn from the deck. Then, the active player will finish their turn, and every player, including the active player, will take 1 more turn. After the last turn, Ragnarok occurs. You don't actually fight anyone in particular, but every player in turn order has 1 last chance to roll 6 dice and arm any warriors that are still left on their board. You can still use Jarl abilities and cards if they will help you. Activated warriors go to Valhalla for last minute scoring, and other warriors are just discarded. Finally, add up your points. All warriors in Valhalla are worth their printed glory point value. The rest of the points are based on shields, and this is dependent on the number of players. For example, in a 3-player game, every shield you have, yours or your opponent's, is worth 2 points, and every set of 2 different shields from your opponent's is worth another bonus 2 points. Conversely, in a 6-player game, every set of 3 different shields from enemies is worth 3 additional points, while every set of 4 different shields grants 5 more points, and you can't use one shield for more than one set. Add all of this up, and whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Now, I'd be remiss if I did not point out that there are many expansions for Valhalla. 6 of them will be right in the main box: Loki's Deception, Thor's Support, the Valkyries, and the Dwarves of Svartalheim, King of the Hill mode, and Brothers in Arms. But others will be separate and unlocked as part of the Kickstarter campaign, including the Fire Giants and Odin's Blessings. There is way too much information to go over in the course of this preview video, but if you want more information on these expansions, you should go to the Kickstarter page and find out even more. That is Valhalla. So I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of Viking-themed games out there, Norse mythology-themed games, I should say more specifically, although some more historical Viking games. But I don't need to list them all, but I really think that Valhalla stands out as a very unique experience. Because so many of those other games are either sort of like resource simulators, or they are combat-oriented, but it's more like territory control over like a large span of different areas. And so there's a lot of like movement and things like that, and a lot of things that are sort of drowning out the combat aspect. Valhalla says no. What is the most important thing about Vikings and Ragnarok and Norse mythology in general? Fighting. And getting to that as quickly as possible, and making that, in fact, the goal. And that's exactly what happens in Valhalla, is you are fielding all of these warriors and using these tactics cards and using your Jarl abilities and rolling these dice, all in the purpose of trying to defeat your opponent and send your warriors to Valhalla if they're successful. And that's very interesting to me, is that they focus so much on that, because that is the most important part of Ragnarok and mythology. And, a lot of people, I think, will shy away from a game if it relies very, very heavily on dice. But I would argue that Valhalla falls into the category of controlled, methodical dice rolling, in the sense that before you even get to the part of rolling dice for combat, I'm the attacker, you're the defender, let's go, you have your Jarl ability that can influence combat, usually in the sense of like adding modifiers to the dice, or letting you re-roll dice, or giving you those extra dice to roll, things like that. You have your warriors some of the warriors have their own abilities. You have the tactics cards, and several of those that you might be able to get a hold of. There's just so many ways to mitigate the dice in the battle, even as you're setting up for the battle, even as you're rolling the dice, or even before that. And so there's that, but then rolling the dice, first off, it's very likely you're going to be able to use most of what you roll, but then, because you're going to have, hopefully, 2 to 4 warriors at a time, unless you're the defender, you might be stuck without it, but if you're attacking, you're probably going to have 2 to 4 warriors, and it's likely you're going to be able to use some or all of what you roll, even off the first bat. But if you don't, you have if you roll misses, for instance, you have the option of tossing away one of those dice and re-rolling what you have left, some or all. So you have much, much more control over how the dice system works in this game than so many other games. But there is still that aspect of randomness, because it's battle. It's battle between vicious warriors going at each other, and you can't account for everything. So it's very interesting how they handled that. The game has so much variety to it. You have all of your different Jarl abilities, and there's tons of Jarls. I flipped through them as quickly as I could just to show you how many there were during the preview section. And so many different types of warriors, the different clans, the ice giants, who are harder to summon but have their own, they're more powerful on average, and they have their own unique ability to lock down an opponent's die. You've got the tactics cards on top of that, how the actual dice work and how they have to be locked into the warriors. I mean, going back to talking about the dice mitigation, you're having to plan this all out way ahead of time anyways. you have to make the decision, am I going to try to field a battle party of several weaker warriors because they're easier to arm, they're easier to activate, or am I going to have a couple of heavy hitters who might be very difficult to activate because I have a very specific set of dice, especially for the giants, but then your strength is through the roof. So you have to make these decisions before you even get to the dice part, because it's easy to put warriors out. It's, all you have to do is make sure you draw them, and you have some control over that too, because you can decide if you want to use your action on one turn to draw more cards or not, and discard one, keep one, that type of thing, or draw two, discard one. And then you decide whether you want to play it or not, or save it or not, or then if you're successful as an attacker, you have no choice but to send your attacking warriors to Valhalla, which is another aspect that ties directly into the theme. If you're the defender, you have the option if you're successful. So that's another decision you have to make. Send as many warriors as you used to Valhalla, because you get as many points as possible, but leaving yourself defenseless. No one can attack you if you have no warriors, but then that's kind of a dead turn for you too. You can't make an attack. Or if you leave yourself only one, then people can attack you, and you can be easy pickings, but shouldn't you get something for your trouble for having defended successfully? Because you're not going to get a shield. So that's an interesting thing too. It's also that headhunting aspect of the game too, where you're targeting someone's shields like life points, but you get to keep them as victory points for yourself, essentially. And depending on the number of players, you're trying to get matchings or trying to get different sets of different, of escalating numbers depending on the number of players. So it encourages you to have variety in who you attack and not just pick on one person overwhelmingly over and over again, although I guess several players could do that. So that's another interesting aspect, just even the scoring itself, which is all dependent on the players. How you play a 2-player game is completely different than a 6-player game. Even a 3 or 4-player game is very different than a 6-player game or a 5-player game. So that's all a very interesting aspect too. Just so much variety, and that is not even getting to the expansions, which, like I mentioned, I can't go over all of them here, but 6 expansions right in the box, right in the core box, okay? Some of them don't play well together, but some of them do, and you can have the option of playing with a couple or more than a couple and play different game modes, like King of the Hill mode. That's all on you, and so therefore every experience you play with this game is going to be very unique because of the different combination of cards, possible different expansions, and there's going to be more expansions that they unlock as part of the Kickstarter campaign. So there is a lot to be said about this game. There's a lot of different things in this game, potentially in this game, and I can't tell you all here, and that's why if you're interested in this, if you like the theme, if you like the fact that it's different than all the other Viking games, if you like the dice play, if you like the artwork, very high quality artwork by the way, don't take my word for it. Go to the official Kickstarter project page. Find out more information for yourself. You can follow the link in the top corner of your screen as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Valhalla from Go On Board Games. Thank you so much for watching and as always for supporting our sponsors. Take care.